How long have you been involved with the bedbug world and how did you get into it? Well, it's quite extraordinary to think that my time with bedbugs is now approaching 2 decades. They first gained my interest when our laboratory was sent a specimen of the tropical bedbug, Cimex hemipterus. Interesting, this was collected from a cafe, from the chairs of a cafe, and next to the cafe was a backpackers facility, and we believe that the backpackers were coming in, leaning their backpack on a chair, and the bedbugs transferred to the chairs of the cafe. And this was from Queensland in Northern Australia. At the time, in 2003, this species wasn't actually known in the country. So we published a finding in 2003, but later on we found specimens in local museums dating back to 1991. Around the same time, my partner Marilyn Geary mentioned that we had received a lot of bedbugs of late. Mel and I work together in the Department of Medical Entomology at Westmead Hospital, and she actually runs our insect identification program. Our laboratory at Westmead Hospital is the de facto national reference laboratory for arthropods of medical importance, and thus we receive more specimens of this type than really any other laboratory in Australia. In analysing our bedbug collections, we noted that the number of bedbug samples submitted to our service had increased by around 250% over the years 2001 to 2004 compared with the previous 4 years. This then prompted me to contact several pest management companies on their bedbug treatments, and one Sydney-based company known as Eagle back then, which is now being taken over by Ecolab, saw a 700% increase in the number of bedbug treatments over a similar sort of time frame. In 2004, we published these findings, and interestingly, this was the first academic paper produced that documented the modern bedbug resurgence. Later in the same year, I presented the results at the International Congress of Entomology, which was held in Brisbane in Australia back in 2004, which was again the first ever presentation of the modern resurgence in an academic forum. Unbeknown to me at the time, 2 very important people were sitting in the audience who I'd yet to meet, neither who at the time had any bedbug experience, but were soon to become experts in the field in their respective countries and lifelong colleagues and friends. Some 10 years later, we teamed up to produce what I believe is the most important publication of the modern bedbug resurgence, but more on that later. In 2005, I was asked to give a presentation of bedbugs to the Australian pest management industry and was required to provide a few pages of written notes as a summary of my presentation as a handout. Perhaps I went a bit overboard, but I really enjoyed writing and it ended up producing a 69-page document. Also interesting at the time, this was the largest publication of bedbugs since 1966. And it turned out it was quite fortuitous that I wrote this article, as in 2005, in the same year, I was approached by our peak industry body, the Australian Environmental Pest Managers Association, also known as AEPMA, to produce an industry standard on bedbugs. I was asked to be lead author, and my 69-page article formed the basis of this document. The first draft of the Code of Practice for the Control of Bedbug Infestations in Australia was published in the same year. This was released some 5 years before any other association had produced an industry standard. Our standard now has had 8 versions and formed the basis of other industry standards. In many ways, AEPMA has led the world in fighting many common urban pests. The year of 2005 was really a very busy period for me. Around the same time, the first dedicated conference anywhere in the world on the modern bedbug resurgence was held in northern Queensland over 2 days. Since then, I've produced some 137 articles on bedbugs in 8 different languages, given over 150 presentations, and travelled to some 16 different countries to speak on or work on bedbugs.